What do you want?
1,500 euros.
In small banknotes?
Both.
I only have small banknotes.
Oh,
but
well, that's fine.
okay. So keep it running. I give you what you want. When you have a logical blunder, you don't kind of get so many of those situations in the outside world, because that is operating not based on principle of logic and meaningfulness and accurate and verifiable information, because the systemic world is mostly operating in a very redundant fashion, so that it is like the feminine brain, that when they like express the inside of a feminine head, they express it in words. So the words are not exact. They convey the thing that is called woman's logic, because I have to disappoint you guys, the actual word logic means the kind of word where the meanings are exact. So it is the woman's logic is a pun of being logical. But the outside world is in many ways operating in this principle, so that when they say things, they don't have a meaning. They don't have a logical meaning. They express emotion rather, and they are very redundant. Do you get what I mean?
Yes. I'm not following.
Yeah, so if a child speaks to another child saying, "I have 2 stones in my pocket," what happens then? I mean, what sort of information did the child just give to another child? He gave exactly the information that he has 2 stones in his pocket. There was no word wasted. The child understands the principle of kingly very well. So when we get our like kingly, when we get children to the kingdom, they are able to use kingly so easily. They don't have the block that many of the adults have when they really need to concentrate their thought in forming the spell, the command of doing anything. Because those adults have reduced their thinking to the kind of fluffy, fuzzy way that politicians are good in this regard, because when you ask them about like something, they open their mouth immediately, well, after 2 seconds, like pre-programmed pause that like sort of gives you the feeling that they pondered it very hard. But what they say is complete bullshit. Doesn't convey any information. That they can mince words, meaning that if you don't have the audio in this video, me speaking or a politician speaking, it looks like the same. We are both like trained speakers. We know how to act in front of camera. But the difference is that when I speak, I always have the point, the information or agenda or whatever, like there is meaningful in my communication. If I don't have any meaning, I don't say it. I'm not speaking without any meaning. It can be occasionally, like just yesterday, my meaning with some of my speaking was actually to, how to say, to calm down my own emotional state. But for me that is rare. I don't usually start speaking for the reason of venting out. I occasionally do. But when a politician speaks about something, at least to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but what they are saying is either I know that people are going to watch this, and I know that many of the politicians should technically be listening to my words and focusing their thinking. But let's put it kindly that the viewpoint of the answer is learned to be unmeaningful. So that instead of seeking to answer with the agenda to give as much and as expressive truthful information to answer the question as possible, they have some other agenda which might even be the polar opposite, meaning that their intention is to speak as much and as kind of convincingly as possible without giving any actionable and truthful and verifiable information. And without actually lying either, because, you know, if you say something that just isn't true in the general understanding of truth, then it can be checked and then you end up in trouble. So the politician's speak is tailored to give as little, you know, information as possible with as many words as possible. So it is the opposite of the kingly speak, where you say things like, give me a sword. And then you say, I give you 100 glee. And then you use very simple expressions, simple questions. What is the most powerful question in the world?
How?
If you can only, if you would make me ask one thing from you, what would you make me ask? Think about it. It's actually a cool thing.
What do you want?
The reason why it took me a moment to think was that I was assessing whether a promotion to Major General was in order, but I received a negative. However, the answer was correct, and that was the reason why I froze. What do you want is the most powerful question, especially when I am the one asking it. And I am asking it several times per day. And you should also ask other people what do they want, because you know, you are not binding yourself to commit to his agendas, but knowing from people what they want is very useful when you are coordinating with those people. If you frequently ask other people what they want, no matter which level they want to tell it, whether they even you know, give you accurate information at all, it's quick to ask. And the answer is usually something that is most useful for you to incorporate into your thinking of the situation at hand. So okay, let's start. What do you want?
Just to get to the thing straight.
What do you want?
1,500 euros.
In small banknotes?
Both.
I only have small banknotes.
Oh,
but
that's fine.
okay. So keep it running. I give you what you want. And what I want is a little bit more difficult because I have a stale feeling in my mouth when I'm chain smoking cigars and drinking just plain water. Because cigars go well with tea and with port wine and like some other things, mostly with those two. And then you get a pleasant feeling in your mouth when you smoke them. But if you smoke them raw or with plain still water from the source, then you start feeling weird. Is there anything that could be helped?
Maybe apple juice? Or wine?
Do we have port wine?
I don't think so, but I can try to get
Nah. Okay, this time we realized that don't do it. I mean, just because I have a want does not in itself cause the want to be immediately fulfilled. Because some people have wants that are difficult to fulfill. Let's say this guy said that he wants clarity. I mean, I cannot give clarity to your head very easily, so I chose to ignore your want. I let you to figure it out how to do it. But this guy had an easy to fulfill want. He wanted 1,500 euros, and when I asked whether small banknotes are okay, he said yeah. So obviously, like that kind of want, I didn't need to. It is questionable whether how many fucks I gave in fulfilling that want. I would say about 3 maybe, like in total. Like first I got the first fuck was given to admire that his want was expressed in a kingly way, so it was something, it was a request. So it is the same thing that I wish to have a cigar in my hand. And since I already do, it doesn't need to be expressed. Or I want to have something else, like a direct, actionable, non-redundant expression of request. So when he chose to answer to the question by saying that he wants 1,500 euros, that is something that I can easily fulfill. And yes, this is counterintuitive to most people who think that they are like eager to talk to you about like your unclarity and spending a multitude of fucks in trying to help you with that. And at the same time, they wouldn't even consider giving 1,500 to a guy who plainly, when asked what he wants, the only thing he wants is money. And these people don't even give it to him. Like obviously, when somebody wants to have a small sum of money and he collects himself to ask it from you, you should do it. You should give the money to him. How many times per week, on average, you are approached by strangers who only want money?
Per week? How many times?
Approximately.
I would say several times a week by the same person or persons.
Okay, so it's professional.
No.
How would you describe it?
Personal. Familiar.
Well, that's a little bit different thing, because then it is not an expression of want, it is rather an expression of discontent, meaning that somebody like somebody is in a situation that he or she feels the situation itself is not tolerable. So it's also called nagging. So when you feel bad, when you are not all good is same as 555. So I am now all good. And that's the reason why my want was difficult to fulfill. It was the most difficult because my want was to get my mouth like less dry and like the conditions for this to be fulfilled were very specific. I want to continue chain smoking cigars, and I already know that at this time of the day it makes most sense to drink just water. But this combination of chain smoking cigars and drinking water makes my mouth dry. So obviously I didn't have need for clarity. I also didn't have need for small banknotes. So my want was higher than the want of either of you. And my want was such that when you guys started thinking like how to fulfill it, you quickly found out I told you that you cannot do it. So in other words, if the greatest want of mine is something that you cannot fulfill, it means that if I want something, I don't want it from you. Is this a desirable situation to be in your opinion? To be in the position that you don't want anything from anyone. So if there is a want, it is something that you yourself must do. Would you like to be me? Or would you like to be you in a position to ask money and be given it? Which one would you rather be?
I would rather be the one that is asked money, the one that gives it.
Yes, because of the 3 wishes that we expressed here, only one was granted. My mouth is still dry, and I don't know of your clarity, it's your own business. But like this guy got what he wanted because he was able to express it in kingly terms. There is not a command in kingly that says request, but there will be. And the syntax, and yes, put this into production, Petteri, when you hear about this. The syntax is simple. You request a character ID to run a certain command, and the syntax is simply request T, and then the command with its full syntax. And when this is requested, it comes to a new like inbox type of thing, where it is possible for you to check your inbox of requests that are asked for you to be administered. And then you can either grant the request or deny it. And you know, it's quite simple. It helps me tremendously when people want things from me, and if they are able to express it in like easy terms, in the kingly terms, no matter what the requests are, you can ask anything. If you want to ask a billion glee, you know, there is even the message field that you can put to tell me if you want about the information, like how would you spend it, or what is your intention behind it. It might get fulfilled. Like there was this guy Artista. So what happened with him is that he didn't ask me. He had been trying to contact me for a year basically, but I didn't give a fuck, because you know, many people contact me, and if they don't give me enough value in their contact, then I choose not to act immediately, and if I don't, well, it is more than likely that I never do. So I ignore. Well, I don't really ignore most of the messages, but I give them the initial fuck, and that is mostly negative. So you try to call me, you try to send me something, usually I don't reply anything, and I never do. It is my thinking that I am using here. But what he did, because he wanted to get into contact, and he couldn't make it happen through Messenger alone, because he was unable to give me enough value for me to reply. So he did is that he organized a massive operation in the forum, the biggest introductory 24-hour run of any character in the forum, including myself, like blasting media in different threads and creating content and value and concepts and everything, which obviously caught my attention. Because when you do something singular, it catches my attention. And it doesn't matter what singularity you are like approaching, what thing you are pushing towards, like making something that hasn't been done before, or doing something that has been done before, but you are doing it in a way that clearly is higher or more expressive or more in magnitude than the way that it has been done before. So what he did is that he wrote more to the forum, more content, more value than anyone during his first 24 hours there. Well, I still don't know what this energy chess was all about, because the number of fucks I gave to the whole project in total was not many, maybe 20 or something. Can you explain to me? Short answer is no, if you don't.
It depends. Explain what exactly.
Yeah, what was the
intention? What was his end goal?
Yeah, because it was something high. Whenever you create something where the observer cannot immediately see what it's all about, then it's something high.
That's Artista. He because we know him personally for a long time, and he's one of our closest friends. That's his gift and also his problem, because it gets in his own way as well. I don't think he knows what his end goal or reason was. I think it changes quite rapidly.
Yeah, but rapid change is also a expression of highness, because as a general in war, and this thinking applies to everything where you need to project force. If you have an expressive intention of getting shit done, typically you have to be flexible. You have to keep your options open until the last minute before committing to decisions that actually branch or fork the timeline. So, for instance, I had plenty of things going on. I was in a constant state of acute optimization for the past week, because of things happening in the world, and I got new intel about what's going to happen, and then we started getting orders from the governments that actually affect people's lives. And then I needed to stay on top of the intel, what is actually happening. When I hear about something happening, I want to know what is actually happening, because it is very seldom that when you hear the description of an event, you get the understanding of it, because typically the first description is descripting the effect. It doesn't describe the cause. When you see the effect, you want to find out the cause. So this coronavirus thing, I was knowledgeable about such a thing developing for all the time, of course, but I didn't give a fuck, because to me it first it followed the same old script that they had with all the other viruses, the SARS and the bird flu and whatnot. But when it started the life of its own, then I needed to start giving fucks to it, and to the script that was put in front of the authorities to react to. And to the authorities in Finland and Estonia, where I have spent my time mostly, are doing things that are according to the script. So there was plenty of new thinking for me that I needed to allocate my time to. And at the same time, the practical effects, I had scheduled week 43 to be my work week, meaning that I can sleep at workplace. I have these weeks every once in a while, and I kind of organize them several weeks in advance to put the maximum confluence of events happening on the weeks when I can spend my full time and attention, including nighttime, towards my work. Because obviously, as a good husband, what I mostly do is that I go home to spend time with my wife every day. When my work finishes, I don't pick up my phone every 15 minutes to check it out. And I sleep next to my wife, and then in the morning I spend time with her, quality time. I don't check my phone again. When I go to work, then I check my phone. I must be structured and methodical. I'm struggling to find the right word, but it doesn't matter. There are people in this world who are doing nothing, yet they still feel the need to check out their mobile phone, like even up to several times per minute. Such people do exist. But then if you want to project your focus and your force, you have to be able to stay on top of like up to several hundred things happening at the same time, and if you focus to one of them, it means that you can let the other things wait. So like my workflow now consists of, let's say, 50 or 70 like processes that I'm actively participating, and most of them I'm directing, so that I'm the one who calls the shots of what is happening, and I'm the potential bottleneck in there. So if I don't push all these 50 or 70 balls, they will drop. Or if not drop, at least they get delayed. So I need to have 50 or 70 things happening at the same time, and I need to be able to consciously, like when I'm speaking this, I'm thinking about 2 or 3 other things at the same time. But I need to be able to consciously choose those things that I'm thinking. So if I start thinking about something that is disrupting the flow of my thinking, for instance, a disruption was that I started thinking of my mouth like it is dry. That kind of thinking doesn't suit very well to the flow of the other processes that are going on in my head as we speak. So it was a distraction. But if I would, surrender to the distraction of what am I going to eat for dinner, and like how is my wife doing, and this kind of thing, like obviously both of them are supremely important. But at the same time, if I cannot get them out of my mind at the moment when I want to do something else, then I am pinned with those thoughts. Being pinned means that you are unable to have a command of your thinking process. So if you are in encounter with if you have an encounter, so you have other players in the same room and you are interacting with them, it is a kind of pin on your thoughts, because your relationship with those people kind of locks you into certain communication frequency, which is pinning your other thinking and doing at that point. So for me, since the volume of my thinking per calendar second is so enormous, it means that if there is like some unresonant things happening in my environment, it is pinning me. And the higher and more volume of my thinking I want to achieve, the more perfect the environment has to be. So, like mostly, when I think I want to think alone, or think in an environment that doesn't have any distraction at all, because distraction is just that. If you allow distraction in your life, even the smallest, you are just reducing your capacity to think. But if you were anyway not about to think, so it doesn't like matter to have a distraction. Because thinking is the supreme activity. Like when I'm thinking, I sweat, and my energy is, I'm not saying that my energy gets depleted, because the like right, or let's say functional way of thinking for me is that the thinking at the same time it is processing the energies and transmuting them in a way that it actually gets me energized. Like when I'm speaking here, it is it's depleting like one sort of energy, but at the same time it is like recharging another type of energy. So when you become conscious of this process, when you know how your brain, how your mind operates, then you are able to become like an actual, how to say, you know, a powerhouse of thinking, intent, action, communication, a true multitasker. Because the word is used in a negative context, meaning a busybody. A busybody is a person who seems busy. But a true multitasking is that a person sits on the throne and seemingly does nothing. And yet the world builds itself around him according to his orders. Thank you for watching.